That was great. Thank you. Our next speaker is a perfect example of right brain marrying left brain. You're going to really enjoy this. Our next company is a neuroscience company that uses brain and nervous system activity to measure emotional reaction and audience engagement when it comes to entertainment and advertising. Their clients already include Hulu, Paramount, and Anheuser-Busch. To discuss how he believes neuroscience can inspire brand love and drive growth, please help me welcome the CEO of Spark Neuro to the stage, Spencer Gerrol.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for attending this talk today. In every form of communications, in all forms of communications, there are only two things that matter at all. And those two things are, number one, are you paying attention? Even right now, are you paying attention to the words that I'm saying? And the other is emotion. Even right now, as I'm speaking with you, am I evoking any sort of emotion? And if I'm grabbing your attention, and if I'm stirring your emotions, then you might have a chance of remembering me later. You may even remember the name of my company. But if you're not listening, and you're starting to tune out, or I'm not getting that emotional engagement, then I've lost you all, and what good is it? And that's true across everything in life. It's certainly true in advertising and all other forms of marketing and communications. What controls these two important elements of attention and emotion is a device that you carry around with you everywhere you go. No, it's not your smartphone. It's something much more complex, much more sophisticated, and it just happens to be that it sits between your ears and on top of your neck, and you never put it down. And that is the human brain, the most powerful tool on the universe, and my obsession in my entire career. I'm going to now test all of your brains. So I'm going to really need you to focus in this next slide, because we're going to do a test of just how quickly you can judge trustworthiness. I'm going to show you two faces. One will appear over the one, and then a moment later, the other face will appear over the two. But I'm only going to show you these faces for 200 milliseconds, 0.2 seconds. So you're going to have a very, very limited amount of time to decide which face you trust more. All right, everybody tuned in? Watch the screen as closely as you can. Here it comes. Okay, raise your hands if number one was more trustworthy. I see like 3 hands. Raise your hands if number 2 was more trustworthy. And that accounts for everybody else. You did that in 200 milliseconds. That is how fast your brain is able to judge. That is all subliminal. That is all subconscious. In fact, this can be done in not just 200 milliseconds, but your brain is able to evaluate the trustworthiness of a person's face in as little as 33 milliseconds. That's even faster than you're able to consciously process that you even saw anything. That is the power of the human brain. Now, how do we measure that? I said attention was so important, emotion is so important, and we know how fast you make those judgments. But how do we measure it? Traditionally, methods like surveys and focus groups are used. These self-report methods come with their biases. For example, if you've ever been in a focus group before, you know that there's this group think. Somebody kind of leads the pack and everyone's, yeah, what that person said. Or there's this thing called social desirability bias. And so I don't want to be judged, or I want to look cool, so I'm going to say the thing in the group that is going to make me seem the most impressive. Even if you're answering a survey and I say, like, how important is climate change to you? And you put 8, in reality, what are your actual behaviors in real life? Does that 8 reflect the importance of climate change in terms of what you do with your behaviors? Well, you already know the answer to this. And so the question is, how do we measure attention? How do we measure emotion? How am I able to know that in any given minute or any given second, your attention is going up or going down? And what we have to do is we have to tap right into the source. And we do that by measuring brain activity and other parts of your nervous system and biometric responses. Your brain, at any given time, neurons are firing along all these different pathways, different frequencies of electricity, different amplitudes of electricity across all different regions of your brain. And all of those thousands and thousands of data points per second, we capture and turn into measures of emotion, measures of attention. And all the while brain activity is the most important, we support that further with other metrics. Galvanic skin response. Here I am on stage, a little nervous, presenting in front of such a big crowd, and my palms are sweating a little bit. That conducts electricity, and we measure that electricity just as is done in a lie detector test. All the while, also tracking every microfacial expression and all of your eye movements and what they mean about engagement. And so then what does this data look like? And what do we do with all of these sensors? Well, we convert it into something that you don't need to be a PhD neuroscientist to understand. And now as an audience, you are all going to judge this ad, but you're not going to judge it solely based on your opinions. You're going to watch this ad and judge it based on the data of the hundreds of brains that are scanned and aggregated together into this graph of attention. So let's watch the ad and see what you think in terms of where people are losing attention, where attention is rising, and where it may fall again. Let's take a look. So, some guys on the couch sitting around playing a video game. Attention is falling off a cliff. So something is wrong here. Something needs to be optimized.
You want to play for real? Why not?
Vámonos, chicos.
Now we're going to see the music kick in. The action starts. Cool soccer tricks. Attention is really climbing. Now we're going to have a dramatic moment. And then silence. Dramatic pause. All of that anticipation builds, and give me the punchline now.
22 years of hard work. Guys,
and
this
too
is
little too late.
This is not
it
good.
Fails. It gets exciting again, a little bit repetitive, so not as good as it was before. And now I want you to be thinking, like, what is this an ad for? What are we even advertising? And you'll notice that by the time they do the big brand reveal, as you're wondering what this ad may be for, attention is all the way down at a 2. Which is why only 19% of people who viewed this ad ever remembered that it was an Adidas ad. On the other hand, if I replay this ad for you right now, you'll know that the Adidas logo was in almost every frame of the entire ad, but you didn't necessarily see it. Except for you. I see that you're like, oh, I saw that. Very good job. So, we know that on a moment-by-moment basis, we should be really measuring your attention and your emotional reactions and not relying on simply what we're able to report later, because it is not incredibly useful to take these 30 seconds and then spend an hour and a half in a group talking about it. Now, is it? So, at Spark Neuro, our mission is to really break down the barriers of academia, break down the walls of the ivory tower, and take the best neuroscience research and put it into practice. And along the way, there's a lot of technology that contributes to that. There's a lot involving machine learning, and we're collecting so many thousands and thousands of data points every week. We're collecting data from hundreds of brains every day, and we're amassing all of this data for a constant evolution of how we can apply neuroscience in practice. We apply this across many industries. First, advertising. This is the low-hanging fruit. There's this attention economy, and everything is trying to grab your attention. And we need to make sure that if you're going to tell someone a story in the one thing that you really don't want to pay attention to, it better be engaging. Otherwise, just as I said at the beginning of my talk, you'll forget it later, and it'll have no effect. It will have no effect on your brand love or your affinity for a brand, and it will certainly have no effect on your wallet and what you end up buying later. We also do a lot of work in pilot TV shows, full-length movies, trailers. In the entertainment industry, finally having a metric to really quantify how much people are truly engaged into the content and optimize that. And it applies across a variety of areas, all the way to national security, where we do work to counter terrorism, applying the same methods in order to thwart the recruitment efforts of violent extremist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. This is something that crosses over every industry, and what we're doing is building up the basis of the neuroanalytics industry. And that will have implications into the future in ways that perhaps until now you haven't even thought about. I will take a few questions, but first, I just want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much.